Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for being with us. I can see that the number of us left is thinning as the day goes on, but I regard you as the mountain climbers. You're the mountain climbers in this sense. Someone once asked a mountain climber why the mountain climbers always rope themselves together. And the mountain climber replied, if we did not rope ourselves together, the intelligent ones would go home. You are roped together in this common pursuit of the importance of healthy lifestyles, and I'm delighted to say that we have three super speakers for you this afternoon. Gabor Balog from Hungary, Angelis Garcia from Spain, and George Opera from Romania. My name is Graham Watson. I am the president of the European Health and Fitness Association, known now as EuropeActive, and I have the honour of having been asked to chair this session this afternoon. EuropeActive brings together the national health and fitness associations from across the European Union with the major industrial providers of gyms and fitness clubs and sports equipment and so on. It's a sector worth about 27 billion euros to the European Union's economy. It employs 750,000 people, and it is the only area of sport which is growing. And this is really very worrying, because physical activity is hugely important to everything else, and yet physical activity is declining. We are people who advocate healthy lifestyles for all ages, from the youngest children to the senior citizens. We run projects for the European Union, like the PAHA project, which is the promotion of active and healthy aging. We run the ALSIS project, which is active learning for children in schools. And with the support of Erasmus+, we've been able to reach out to nearly 1,000 older adults and more than 20,000 school children across 10 EU member states. And the European Commission, and I salute them for this, the European Commission has been working very hard to try to get national governments to look at best practice across the member states, to look at where they can learn from each other, to try to fight the tide of obesity and poor health caused by poor diet, but also by lack of physical activity. The Commissioner in charge of our programs, Tibor Navracic, Commissioner for Education and Culture, launched an initiative with two other commissioners last year, the Tartu Call, calling for the question of physical inactivity to be taken very seriously. That was 2 years ago. Many of the actions in that call have been implemented, but despite everybody's best efforts, inactivity and increase in obesity is rising. It's not rising as fast as it was, but it is still rising. And we have nothing short of a public health crisis on our continent. And if we are to overcome this, it's not only the European Union institutions and national governments that have to put more effort into it, it is all of us as civil society coming together to make healthy lifestyle choices a reality. And what we intend to do in this session is to show some examples of good practice on how we can make this happen. And that's why I'm really pleased that we have here today three people who each in their own way have made a difference. Gabor Balog, I'm going to start with you. Gabor Balog and I sat together on the European Commission's high-level working group on sports at grassroots level. Gabor is an Olympic medalist. He's the president of the Hungarian National School University and the Leisure Sport Federation. He's a former 8 times champion in pentathlon, and he has a decade of experience in leading sports organizations and launching physical activity campaigns. He advises the Hungarian government. He's the president of the Hungarian School Sport Federation, and he's the instigator of a number of projects like the European School Sport Day and the SHAPE project, in which organizations have formed recommendations to member states as to what needs to be done to deal with the problem of inactivity. So Gabor, we're delighted to have you with us, and I believe you have a short presentation for us. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Two nice words. Thank you very much for you. But I would like to very warm welcome you all in this session, because this is a pretty complex issue, ours today's topic. Let me continue to my mother tongue in Hungarian, but of course you can follow my presentation in English as well. Nagyon-nagyon sokat beszélgetünk arról.
We talked a lot about how important physical activity and exercise is, and the healthy lifestyle in general, and what economic and social impacts it has. But I think the most important thing is to actually realize what this means in reality. Today we see that low intensity, low exercise lifestyles show that your expected lifetime will go down, and it will go down significantly, and that's a very scary fact. Now, if we want to change that, then we first have to have an impact on young people. We have to show them efficient and good programs that will turn this bad trend around, this bad tendency around. I think we can only be successful if we establish complex programs that touch upon many different areas in life, where different sectors will work together to make sure that their effort will lead to success. Now, let's have a closer look at this issue. Let's see what the Hungarian Organization for Young People's Sports Activities has done so far in the recent past. Now, in Hungary, we have realized how what a key role schools play in showing young people a healthy lifestyle and supporting them to achieve that. I think what's important to see is that since 2012, children have a physical education class each day. We use a 3+2 structure, which means that the 3 physical education classes form part of the regular curriculum, but you can add 2 more classes to your schedule per week, which do not necessarily have to be done at the school, so it could be some sort of a club. The point is that we're trying to draw young people's attention to grassroots sports activities. Namely, we want to show young people how good it feels to do some kind of exercise, and it could be any kind of any sort of activity. It could be horse riding, could be handball, could be football, could be anything. And we're trying to integrate these activities into schools. Now, we have had challenges. We are building gymnasiums in schools. We had to put together programs for children's physical education and physical activity. Obviously, children have changed over the past 20 years, so we have to talk to them differently. We have to speak the language of the new generations, of these new generations. Also, what's important was to make sure that physical education teachers are up to scratch and they have the required level of training.
I don't need recognition. I'm on a mission. I'm paying dues. I'm in position. I'm staying up. It's getting late. You're doing good. I'm doing great. I know this life is right for me. I know the future's bright for me. I know my teachers lied to me. I do it for the ones that came before and nearly died for me. Recognition. I'm on a mission. I'm paying dues. I'm in position. I'm staying up. It's getting late. You're doing good. I'm doing great.
Ez a videó leginkább azt a grassroots szemléletet.
So this was just a short clip to show you our approach to physical education in schools. Now let's look at the initiatives that we've started in our organization for youth sports. We have a strategic document, Physical Education 2020 is the name, and this gives you a short description of all government programs that are geared towards disseminating the idea of physical education across schools. Let me give you a few details here. We came up with proposals actually to the European Council to create a competency titled Healthy Lifestyle. This should be a structure in which the idea of healthy lifestyle should be disseminated in the relevant areas. We believe that it's important to have this document called a competence recommendation. Now, we have many organizations we work with, partner organizations, and we created a European framework for quality physical education. It's important because this can give you direction towards the national physical education curriculum. This will help you establish your own country's structure. We also have an online support program, which we're going to start in November, December. This will be available for Hungarian physical education teachers in Hungarian. This comprises all sorts of documents, audio-visual clips and support materials that will be available to teachers free of charge, of course. I think what would be a great idea is to work with this and make this available across the European Union, making sure that these aids can be of use to everybody across the European Union. I think one program that deserves special attention is the NetFit program. This gives school children from year 5 to year 12 to measure their physical fitness, their strength, their BMI, for example. These figures, these data can be measured in all schools. That's actually it's not only an opportunity or a potential measurement, but this is something that is required at for all schools. Teachers are trained to use these equipment for measuring these data, and schools have the required set of equipment to carry out this job. Now, moving on, since 1987, we've been arranging the Student Olympics. This goes back a long way. We have 322 people applying. This is a system that comprises every level of schooling, meaning from the smallest classes in the smallest villages, and it works in a so-called aggregate system, and this system goes all the way up to tertiary education. I've just mentioned to you how we're trying to reach out to the youngest children. We're going to work with them starting the age of 6, and our priority is to start grassroots activities with them. Also, there are programs outside the school curriculum. For example, the school sports day, which includes ISKA and OPLA also. Actually, it's a very fresh piece of news, because this has been decided today. There's going to be 38 countries participating. We're very proud of this program. This year's theme is healthy lifestyle and the importance of eating fruits and vegetables. And the information package was sent to all schools. The European School Sports Day is an event which draws the highest number of students across Europe, so we're very proud of it. Also, I would like to thank our decision makers, because it is because of their enthusiasm that school sports has received such an important role and has received such attention. Two more programs that I would like to briefly mention. There is a school program for handicapped children. We have organized a framework of teachers and trainers to help these children, and this has proved a very useful and very successful program. And the last one, it's part of the Erasmus program. We have created a label system that will incentivize schools' support activity in the field of healthy living and exercise. I think the good results that we've seen is that physical activity has received a more prominent role across in all schools. And we already have a set of indicators where we can see marked jump in the skills of these students. So I think that this proves the success of these programs, and I would be happy to answer if you have questions.
Thank you, Gabor. That is some agenda. May I kick off? I'm going to abuse my position as chair to kick off with the first question to you, because I was very interested to see the range of your experience there. Looking back over the 10 years that you've been doing this, what would you say is your most important experience in teaching healthy lifestyles? And also, what would you say has been the biggest challenge that you have faced?
Let me answer Hungarian.
What I've noticed, and I think that I can say this as an Olympic sportsman, I think we have a relatively easy situation in school, because what we're doing is what you can call mass sports. In a school, you don't want to necessarily focus on professional sports. You want to focus on grassroots sports activities. This is going to help children, and this is going to improve children's lives. And of course, if they, if they do become professional sports people, then all the better. But I think what we should first give them is to let them enjoy exercise and sports. Also, what you need to understand is that children don't like to sweat too much. They don't like to suffer too much. They like to play with their computers. They like to hit buttons. And they like to play, of course, which is fine, but you have to find the right time for that. And also, there is community media, which is something that social media that is going to take time away from them. I think we have to find the right balance. Now, exercise and movement makes you feel happy. Therefore, we have to organize programs that will help children do some of these activities. And I think that it's the physical education teacher in the schools who are key to this. I think a good physical education teacher will be able to motivate children appropriately. And I think that is the biggest help to children.
Enjoyment, then. Enjoyment is the key. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gabor. Other questions to Gabor? Yes, sir.
Yes, the problems as you outlined, I'm familiar with, and I think they go across pretty much all developed countries. There are parts of the world where obesity is not quite a problem, and it's not due to the lack of sport or their non-participation. So I'm still a bit puzzled as to why we have such a health problem, because we have more grassroots sport than ever. We have more choices in sport than ever. We have more PE in our schools than ever. These were not there when I was going to school, yet the problems seem to grow. Are we looking in the right place to respond? Is the problem not somewhere else in terms of what we are eating, or what we have moved from being a very, to a very sedentary population? The types of jobs that we do today don't involve as much movement and as physical labor as in the past. But still, they are spread across affluent members of our society and the less well-off members of society. I'm not sure necessarily that more sport is going to address the problem, because, as you say, people like, and their parents, they like their children under their roof. They like them to know where they are with a video or something in their paw to entertain, keep them occupied. They don't want, some sports hurt, and you have to give yourself, you have to commit. And I don't know where you sufficiently committed to doing things like that revolve around hard work, activity, bit of punishment, and so on. But I suspect, and I see it in parts of Dublin where people belong to maybe a working class tradition, and it's in those areas that you have the fast food joints at night. Many children do not eat a home prepared meal. The delivery systems that are there today through apps like Deliveroo and Just Eat and so on, they facilitate the kind of delivery of food to your door that you might be better off not eating. I've no solution to what it is, but I'm surprised. Many people say they're sports lovers, but what they really mean is they like sitting down in front of the television and watching sport and eating and drinking maybe at the same time. And so much of our sport is often watched in pubs, and so you see sporting. Then you'll see it in the World Cup. I'm sorry, but it's a bit of a bugbear of mine. You watch the Rugby World Cup at the moment, and you will see people watching and drinking and eating in the stand, while others are out in the field killing themselves.
Great. Thank you. Gabor.
Given that you're an elite athlete yourself.
What's the question? Okay.
My question is, Gabor, my question is not that sport won't necessarily solve this problem. That is, it's located somewhere. We might be looking in the wrong direction.
A beteget ismerjük.
Well, we know the sick person, we know the ailment, and you've described the situation very clearly, I think. But I also think that Hungary has taken the right step. Schools will play a key role. When you can have some influence on young people's lives, then you can do your best, and you can give them markers, pointers into which directions they should go. And I think that if I can call myself a successful person as a sportsman, and I don't mean a successful person as a sports politician, because sports has taught me things. For example, how to allocate my time, how to eat healthily, why it's important, how to achieve an objective, how to reach an objective. If I have a drawback or a failure, how should I manage it? This is what sports has taught me. And I think that if we can offer these programs, sports programs to children, and if we can establish a community, for example, through grassroots sports, I think we will be able to implant this good approach in children, and we can help them achieve good things through sports.
More questions to Gabor Balach? Yes, madam.
Thank you very much for the great introduction of all the amazing things that you do. My name is Bilana Mircheva, and I'm from the European Capitals and Cities of Sport Federation. What we do relates a lot to promoting sport on the local level. And I'd be interested to hear your take on how do you think it would be the best approach to promote such fundamental documents as the one that you've been working on, and to incorporate them in school programs more widely? For example, can we cooperate in some way so that we promote the work you do, or any such ideas that you might have? Thanks.
Ez a legfontosabb kérdés.
Well, this is the key question, I think, to be able to work out programs. This is something that you can always do. You can always come up with a new curriculum, but I think we have to make sure that we don't produce these documents and then put them on the shelf and forget them there. I think this is a very interesting idea, and I would be happy to take this issue offline with you, because I think if somebody works in this field, this will not be the first time when you hear of our organization. I think one of our objectives is to create a platform where you can have access to online digital material through Europe. I think it's imperative that we all have these documents. Now, as to how schools can use this, I think, again, the key is your PE teacher. They have to be placed in the right position in the school staff. They have to be appreciated. They have to be well trained. They have to have ample time to be able to carry out these activities. For example, in Hungary, if you're a PE teacher and you're active with children, you're helping with them with their sports, then you have to dedicate some of your private time to their activities, for example, to escort them to certain sports events. So that's why a PE teacher is the key in this structure, I think.
Thanks, Gabor. Mens sana in corpore sano, as the Romans said. We've got a long way to go to get back to that, but thank you. I'm going to come on to, knowing that time is short, to Ángeles García, who has come to us from Asturias to talk to us about her experiences in this area. Ángeles García has been a prominent figure in Asturian sport. She was one of the first volleyball players, one of the first female volleyball players in Spain. She leads a public educational institution, a large school in one of the most difficult neighborhoods of Gijón in northern Spain. Ángeles has been awarded several national and international prizes, such as the Silver Medal on Sport Promotion. She's the ambassador of Gijón City of Sport. She's Spain's Volona champion, the European Commission 2016 prize winner for road safety and sustainable mobility for her cycling project. And last but not least, her team has been recognised with the 2017 Be Active School Award from the European Commission. Helis, we're delighted to have you with us today. And I'm going to ask you, if I may, as a kind of kick-off, what role you think schools can play in promoting healthy lifestyles. I believe you may also have a presentation which covers some of this.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by thanking you for the invitation to participate in this important event. Thank you to everybody who's come to the meeting to listen to us. And I hope that we will be able to share useful conclusions with you on the promotion of physical activity that we are recommending. This is one of the great challenges of our society, I believe, at the moment. I would like to begin by congratulating the colleague here for the excellent projects that he's conducting in his country. And I think those experiments can be replicated in other places, adapted to the conditions, of course, with which we find ourselves in our schools. Now, to begin the presentation, the role of school in promoting physical activity is to help combat these sedentary habits that we have, as one of the speakers say. But the key, I think, to changing these mindsets is at school. You have to start from the bottom, and in schools we have a great responsibility. We have an obligation to try and get the community to work together, to cooperate with both public and private institutions in our societies, to improve life in our neighborhoods, in our cities. And we cannot work in isolation. The school cannot be a little island against the world where you give certain messages to your pupils that goes against what they hear elsewhere. So you have to get across the value of sport, and I think we need to make a distinction between competitive sport and physical education in school, and of course there's commercial football, which doesn't necessarily represent the same healthy values that the school is trying to get across. So you can't be working away in isolation in your school, trying to encourage pupils to have a healthy lifestyle on the one hand, and then, the great idols that those children have, because everybody wants to be a Ronaldo or whatever, are perhaps transmitting other values. That's not the kind of physical activity that we're trying to instill as a value. So perhaps I could show you a video, and then after that I'll explain a little more about our project.
Muy bien, gracias. certainly sets us up. You have certainly, obviously, developed a remarkable range of activities with a great esprit de corps in the Cervantes school. So what is next? How do you develop it further?
Well, the comment really that I wanted to make, now that you've seen all the activities that we've been promoting, is that all of this is happening within the school timetable. These are not weekend activities or evening activities. All of this happens during the school day. We have a school which is in a difficult area that has been really hit by the economic crisis, with pupils with low self-esteem and low expectations of success, and not with a good diet and so forth. So the school felt that we had to address these problems. And identify what we could do, given the background that these children have, because the opportunity to do something is in the 5 years per day of obligatory education. So we tried to look at examples and projects and get the appropriate training. And a key event was last year when the regional government made it compulsory for a health committee to be set up in schools. And our school invited people from the local health center, people from families, and of course members of the teaching staff, and people from various clubs to sit on that health committee, so local health clubs. And we asked this health committee to draw up a school sports program. So not just a PE lesson or individual activities, but a whole plan where families play a key role, because if you don't get support from the family, it is very difficult to ensure that the good habits we try to establish are maintained over time. So we're trying to get people to form good habits in terms of sport and diet. And of course, these are very long haul exercises. You can't just do it overnight. So the Health Commission drew up a plan working on 3 fronts. First of all, there's the physical program, then there's the dietary program, and then there's the environmental strand, which is based on sustainable mobility, which the schools Cycle to School program, which you saw examples of in the video. So we were trying to work on these fronts at once: health, sustainable mobility, diet, and so on. The physical activity plan has to fit into the school day. The school curriculum in our region consists of 2 PE hours a week. But in our centre, following the conclusions of this health committee, we set ourselves the objective of having more hours of activity than that in 1 week. And so the half-hour break times were reorganized to offer physical activity during that break. So the clubs would turn up to school to spread information about what they had on offer. And we developed a series of additional activities, but within the school day. So somebody who starts in the first year of primary at the age of 6 and leaves at the age of 12 will go through a whole sequence. So in the first and second year, they'll have the swimming, then golf, then climbing, surfing, and so on. and then they finish with a white week where they can develop their skills. And of course, whenever there are festivals at schools, you know, we use that opportunity to have a sporting activity somewhere in the town, so that our pupils get out of their neighborhood and see everything that is available elsewhere in the city, what facilities are offered, because sometimes they don't even go to the center of town, so they get an opportunity to see, you know, what is on offer locally. And what is very important is sports for girls. We have a specific plan to promote female sport. So there are programs where you can meet sportswomen, visits where they can tell of their experience. We organize programs to pass on information about any successes that our pupils have in sport, so that this becomes known, and with the participation of families, of course, this is very important. It's important that the parents come into the school hall for the cycling to school project. First of all, they came into the playground and cooperated, were involved in establishing the program. So they're participants with a role to play. They have to feel ownership of this project. So after all of this, we also have extracurricular activities in the evening, which are not obligatory, but the local government has an important role in this. The town hall has subsidies for these sporting activities. We've got cycling, athletics, volleyball, and there are also private projects, self-defense and so on, and we offer access to local clubs. And we have a sort of milk and fruit program for the break time, and we have a breakfast program that you saw something of in the video. And finally, throughout the year, we organize some health days where we look at nutrition and how to read labels on food, family activities, and an innovative element that we developed last year was looking for healthy activities in our area. The aim is that pupils should try to identify anything that can be beneficial for health in their surroundings, so not just sporting activities, but it could be a bench that gives me a chance to sort of sit down and rest and relax, and so that we don't sort of go outside our curriculum. We also try to include all the other subjects that an element of awareness in all the other subjects that we're teaching, such as technology. And so we developed a kind of geo-location map in technology, which was interactive, where people had to go out in town. But this was developed by the children themselves. And once again, the municipality invited us to present what we are doing to the whole of the city with the pupils, so that they get to work in different areas and speak in public and feel like good citizens. So what have we achieved? We have 85% of our pupils participating in extra curricular activities. Well, so we want to get to the last 10%, the ones that really need this help, these people who are in situations of exclusion. So that's the big challenge now in our school, to try to really get to the last 15%.
It sounds to me, Angeles, as if you're mobilizing not just the children in your school, you're mobilizing the whole community. And this is not just a program, this is a crusade. It's wonderful. Who questions to Angeles? I'm sure she's given us so much information that we need some time to digest it. But I imagine there were a number of challenges along the way, Angeles. I don't know whether you found a lot of resistance from the local authority or from the parents or from others within the community.
Mira,
Well, quite honestly, the biggest resistance, I'm sorry to have to say this, came from the school staff themselves at first. Because it was difficult for them to understand that you're not wasting your time if you go off to do windsurfing or whatever, or for the morning. And also, of course, because they have to teach the curriculum. But these various competences that have to be acquired can be done in different ways. But of course, it does mean that you have to have a kind of paradigm shift in your approach to teaching. So that was the first resistance, really, was the internal resistance of the teaching staff. They had to understand that everything that we're doing is still education. It's not just a day off. But the families, to be honest, as these activities developed over time, we saw that there has been a big change in habits and a big change in the people who want to come to our school now.
Congratulations. Question here.
a question for you, because I find it really impressive to have 90% of girls join your classes. How do you manage? Because we know from the Eurobarometer that girls, there's a difference between the engagement of boys and girls in physical activity, and actually girls are less active than boys. And the older they get, the less active they go. So what is your special trick to get them into sport?
Pues, bueno, por un lado...
Well, I think it's quite straightforward. I think it's starting young and offering such a variety, because often what's on offer in PE lessons doesn't correspond to what girls are interested in. It's all these clubs and very physical activities. So we start off with something fun that will appeal to them, that will motivate them. And once you've got them, you know, they'll stick with it. And we do try to follow up what happens if people do stop sport later. Sometimes it's due to the secondary education program. It's 6 hours of class per day, and everybody in Spain is going to all sorts of private lessons and so on in the evening, or other academies in the evening. So it, from a timetabling point of view, it can be difficult to continue. There is a club, though, that coordinates the transition.
Let's move from what you're doing with school children to what George Opera is doing with youth and adults. George is a non-formal educational trainer from Romania. He's the founder of an organization called Outdoor 360, and he's worked for over a decade as an entrepreneur, as a project manager, as an innovator in the field of outdoor education for youth and adults. He takes some 1,600 participants every year through his programs, and it's based on a greater understanding of healthy living and outdoor-based learning. George, tell us something about your encounters with the brown bears of the Carpathian Mountains.
Okay, those can be some scary stories, maybe. I am George. I'm from Romania. I've been involved in non-formal outdoor education for around 12 years. So we started already even a bit before we entered European Union. So I was very keen with the Youth in Action program and Erasmus+. I know them quite well. So I've been doing since then trainings and youth exchanges across over 10 countries as a trainer in non-formal education, especially with outdoors. And to sum up a bit, and also to because this is the finishing speech of this session,